five-time first-team All-Pro linebacker, Panthers radio analyst, future Hall of Famer, the smartest man in football, and I'd like to know how good of a bowler you are, Luke Kuechly.
I am a terrible bowler. That's a hot start. If I break 100, I'm happy.
Can we go bowling together sometime? I would love to beat you at bowling.
Up.
Oh my God, I did it. I'm leaving. I found something Kuechly's bad at. I'm done. I'm retired.
There we go.
See you later. How have you been?
It's good. Back in Cincinnati for Thanksgiving last week with my parents. Both my brothers were in town. My mom and dad cooked up a big Thanksgiving dinner. Had way too much dessert, and then got back down here on Saturday and watched my Panthers have a heartbreaking loss to the Buccaneers. They played
such a fun game.
They played really well.
Such a fun game.
The last 4 weeks have been 2-2. Obviously, you beat the Saints, and you go to Germany and beat the Giants. Have the tough game against the Chiefs. You're feeling really good, and we played really well on Sunday. But there's probably 5 plays. It's the most cliche thing ever, but you miss a couple kicks, you miss a couple throws, you have a couple bad penalties. We turned the ball over at the end of the game, but we were there at the end. We got a stop on defense in overtime. We had an opportunity to go kick a field goal, and we're right there. I think Canales is doing a great job.
They're playing hard for him, Luke. They are all playing so hard for him.
The fans in Bank of America Stadium are ready to erupt with joy. You could feel the energy in the stands when Thielen caught that ball at the end of regulation. That place erupted. It was loud. I was like, we are back. And then the air gets let out. But we are so close. I'm excited. We got a big one on the road this week against Philly and Saquon and that offense. So and obviously that defense too with Fangio and all those dudes. So it'll be a good one for us.
Have it named in the starter the rest of the way.
Hey, whatever they're doing with Bryce is working. I know we talked about it last week. I think it's pretty well set that he's going to be the starter, whether they say it or not. I think whatever they've been doing the last 5-6 weeks with Bryce has been working pretty well.
We'll see. That Eagles defense is tough. You said it. Vic Fangio. The Eagles get this win over the Ravens last week, right? Lane Johnson, he gave some love to Roquan Smith. I'd like you to take a listen.
You know, it wasn't pretty. I thought they were pretty stout defense. You got Roquan Smith, calling out lots of plays. They were about to run. So, for me, like seeing linebacker doing that was like, since Luke Kuechly, he's probably the guy calling out the most stuff. So, very smart player, instinctive player. That's why he's had so much success.
I hope you heard that. I could barely hear it. But obviously a comp to Luke Kuechly just flew out of Lane Johnson's mouth. When you watch Roquan, do you see a little bit of yourself in that?
I wish I was as fast as Roquan. When you watch him, he plays with such speed and violence. He reminds me a lot of Thomas Davis in the sense of obviously he's a Georgia guy, he's a Bulldog, but his speed and physicality are what separates him. But I think he's super smart. You watch that game, he's calling stuff out, he's pointing the direction, he's getting downhill immediately. Half the battle of playing linebacker is, do you know where the ball is going? Do you know what your responsibility is? And then really the biggest thing I think in the run game is, do you know who's going to block you? If you know who's going to block you, then that's your one-on-one matchup for that play. You go beat him to the point of attack, and then you can go make a play on the football. And that's the one thing I think that's cool about linebacker. If they're going to run, a front side zone concept, you know exactly who's going to block you. It's going to be the guard, it's going to be the center, it's going to be the tackle. If you understand who it's going to be, now all I got to do is go win against that guy, and then I can go make the play on the football. A couple of the plays that Roquan made were power plays. He understands, hey, we're going to get motion from the right side to the left side. My gap is going to change from an A gap to a B gap or a C gap. I'm going to bump over before the motion happens. I'm going to get my feet set. And then when the ball snapped, I know exactly who's going to block me. I'm going to beat him to the spot. I think when linebackers get in trouble with all the shifts and all the motions that we're getting in the NFL these days, if you're moving sideways on the snap of the football, it's harder to get downhill and attack. If you can get set up based off motion and move from your initial gap to your pre-snap alignment based off motion, you can get your feet set, your eyes in the right place. Boom, now football is easy. So I think Roquan understands, I know where I got to be, I know what the motion's going to do, but I think he also understands if I can get to my new alignment, I can get my feet set, I can put my eyes exactly where they need to be, boom, I can have success on that play.
If y'all want a quality NFL football education, watch the Up and Adam show. Clip this off, send it to whoever needs it. I understood 60% of what you're saying. Like, I'm going to study it later and like have to rewatch it 90 million times. Steelers get the Browns. Ravens have their bye. Then Giants get the Steelers again. I think the Steelers have the Chiefs on Christmas. Like, they could go, Luke. They could go.
Well, you look at what Russ has done since he's become the starter. All he does is play well, and then the one guy on the other side of the ball is T.J. Watt. I love watching T.J. It seems like when the moment gets big, he steps up and makes plays. But that team, to me, is really built to play when it gets cold and it gets nasty out. You look at Najee Harris. We played the Pittsburgh last year, and I was on the field pregame, and you never know how big guys are. And that's one thing that I talk to guys about. I was always nervous going into games because you don't know what a guy, how does he feel? Does he run heavy? Is he big? Is he physical? And when Najee Harris walked by, I was like, I want nothing to do with that guy. Big, physical, strong. So their offense, they're starting to click with Russ. Obviously, they're going to be really good on the defensive side of the ball with TJ and Highsmith and the guys in the secondary and, Joey Porter Jr. and I think Minka's a stud. I really like him. I don't think he gets enough credit. I think you talk about a guy that's smart and intelligent and gets football. They kind of have dudes on all levels of that defense.
And then that's really the coaching. If I look at, and I think people don't want to, people are always looking for the sexy new coach of the year pick, but I do think that the Hard Knocks in season AFC North, when you watch it or any clip of it, Tomlin just stands out, okay? He just pops off the screen. So I actually think it's really good. He doesn't want it, of course, as we all know, but it's good PR for him in that bid where it might change some minds and give him a little more well-deserved love, because you can say what you want about, he has the pieces, what a risk with Russell inheriting that. And then the Justin Fields, the management of that. I'm in Latrobe. He's obsessed with like what you're obsessed with. Like I remember seeing you in Charlotte and you're like, I miss the dorms. I miss that is Tomlin. And when I was there, I could just tell he's obsessed with the strain that you talk to me so much about. They were going after it. He wants to see them kicking each other's asses on a 100-degree day against Najee, against this guy, he eats it up and loves it. And it's every little thing that happened in Latrobe we're seeing play out on the field now. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at Tomlin. Like, what is his best quality? I think for him is just overall leadership. Like you said, you've got two really good quarterbacks that come in. You make the hard decision to play Russ, and there's no issue. Russ goes out and plays great. I mean, there's a reason that he has never had a losing season in however many years it's been. I just think the leadership that he has, what that team stands for, how those guys play for him, he's special, and I think he's just very confident in who he is as a coach, and he doesn't have to recreate himself every year. He doesn't have to question who he is. He knows exactly who he is. That team and that city are exactly him. Tough, physical. When it gets cold and nasty and wet out, we're going to put the hammer down on guys. And I think he probably has a great relationship and a lot of respect from the guys in the team, that I think he's able to talk to those guys and motivate them and have difficult conversations. And it doesn't ever come across as him attacking him, because I think that they probably know that Tomlin would do everything that he's telling him them to do. He would do the same thing.
Yeah, any soundbite. I literally the other night went down just an unstoppable hole of watching just from the past years how he managed things, how he managed some of the characters that he's had on his teams throughout the year. Diontae Johnson being one of them. So let's get to this, because you had him there in Carolina, not for super long. The Ravens just suspended him. I guess the story is, I thought he was frustrated because he wasn't getting the ball. And then he refused, allegedly, to go into the game. What is that?
I'm sure it all stems from frustration. I think there's probably frustration in Carolina. He gets traded to Baltimore, probably thinks he's going to play a lot more. You look at what Baltimore does on the offensive side of the ball. You have the two good tight ends. You got Pat Ricard. You've got Derrick Henry, the monster, in the back. Zay Flowers, Bateman, Nelson Aguilar. There's just not a lot of opportunity for him to get on the field. I mean, they run 21 personnel with Big Ricard and hammer the ball with Derrick Henry. They go 12 with those two big tight ends, and then Zay Flowers is having a career year. It's kind of just, where do you fit into this whole thing? And they're one of those teams. I think Harbaugh is very similar to Tomlin in the sense of, hey, we'll bring you in. He was an option for him that was relatively cheap. We'll take a flyer and see what happens. And I don't think that they're in any position where they feel like they have to put him in the game. So I think he's probably frustrated in the sense of, I thought I was going to come here and play more. I'm not playing. Now they want me to go in. I don't know the dynamic, but I think Harbaugh does a great job of, we're going to bring you in. Either you're going to adhere to how we do things, or you're probably just not going to play.
I mean, he's in a contract year, so I guess that's the empathy for the situation of him wanting to have numbers so he can go get paid. But this is not really working out that way. We'll see what happens. They're coming off a bye, and they've got to find some rhythm and consistency. And he could be. That's what sucks. Like, he's so talented. Like, he could be
super talented.
This difference maker. So what's the problem? I mean, in Carolina, why didn't it work in Carolina?
I think there was just, we were struggling, and there was who's going to play Andy or Bryce. And, I think there was certainly that dynamic, and he probably wanted to win. And like you said, he's in a contract year, but then when he goes to Baltimore, I mean, you look at the best guys on that Baltimore team, on that offense. It's Derrick Henry, it's Lamar, obviously Mark Andrews is a stud, Isaiah, Zay Flowers, like, your three best guys that have been there the longest. I mean, Mark, obviously Derrick just got there this year, but Lamar, when have you ever heard those guys complain about touches?
Never.
And if they don't complain, and I'm sure Mark wants the ball more, but he never complains. So when a guy comes in from a different team in the middle of the year, they kind of just don't have to put up with that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson is like, I heard him in a press conference the other week after a game. He's like, we're winning, we're good. But he's also settled and paid. So there is that element to it of wanting that. But yeah, we'll see what happens to them. Good insight there. We have a big game tonight. Week 14, NFC North, Packers-Lions. Can you give me a little insight on Josh Jacobs? How he can be contained, why it's working so well with LaFleur?
Well, I think he's big and physical and can get downhill, and he's hard to tackle. He's a big body. So I think his just general makeup of a running back is great. But I think what happens is, you just showed this clip here against the Niners.
Okay.
With that LaFleur offense, there was so much pre-snap motion right here. We talked about this with Roquan. So there's pre-snap motion, there's pre-snap shifts, there's guys moving on the snap of the ball. And so a lot of these defenses, if you're not used to seeing that, look at all the stuff that's going on behind the line of scrimmage. Your gaps change, where the pressure comes, the alignments from the defensive line change, all pre-snap. So if they move one guy on the offensive side of the ball, the other team might have to move a linebacker, another linebacker, a nickel, maybe pressure changes. So there's so much pre-snap stuff going on that when the ball gets snapped and he gets that ball with his head or with his shoulders square moving downhill, he's super difficult to tackle. He's super difficult to contain. They do a really good job of compromising edges, and I think a lot of it falls on LaFleur. You kind of look at how their season has gone. They started out okay. Jordan Love gets hurt. They put Malik Willis in. They play well. A lot of that is because they're able to run the football and because of Matt LaFleur. Jordan Love comes back. He's still a little bit banged up. In the last four games, he's 5 touchdowns, a pick. They're playing really well. And then against Detroit, it's like, hey, your last loss a couple weeks ago was against these guys. So I'm excited for the game.
There's this, I think it's a podcast. There's this like a TikTok. It's called Caps Off. These like these fans that talk about obviously the NFL. Shout out to them. We'll clip this off for them. But they were discussing what would be more terrifying or what's scarier. Is it like a 1-2 punch like a Gibbs, Montgomery, or a Saquon or a Josh Jacobs? As a linebacker, what is scarier, the 1-2 punch or the Saquon?
Not to take anything away from Saquon, because I think he's fantastic, but when you play a 1-2 punch like those two guys, you have to prepare for two different running backs.
Yeah.
Two different running styles. Gibbs is a slasher. He's got great speed. He can juke you out. He's got pretty good power. And you put Montgomery in, and he's heavy. He's physical. He runs through tackles. And as a linebacker, you start to get into the third, fourth quarter. Now it's like, all right, I really have to pay attention to who's in the game. Number one, how they play is different. Number two, I'm sure the play calls for Ben Jacobs differ a little bit between those guys. But then when I go and I have to go make a tackle against them, I need to know who's in the game.
Yeah.
Do I have to go? Is it David Montgomery? And I got to be used to a heavier, more physical thumper, run through tackles. I got to really attack his hip and make sure that I get good body contact and I run my feet on David Montgomery. Or is it Jahmyr Gibbs where I need to be a little lighter on my feet? I have to anticipate some shake, some wiggle, maybe a stiff arm.
Gosh.
And I have to anticipate more of a burst with Jahmyr that I don't have to anticipate with David Montgomery. So, yeah, the physicality and the freak nature of Saquon is ultra impressive. He's having a great season.
He's just been so dominant. I'm actually surprised you went this direction. I thought it wasn't that good of an argument.
I hate two running backs in the game because mentally I always have to be aware. It's not, say it's 11 personnel.
Okay.
And it's one tight end, 3 receivers, and a running back, and it's Saquon the whole time. I know Saquon. But if it's 11, it's like, all right, is it David Montgomery? Is it Jahmyr Gibbs? Like, there's that whole game that you have to play within your brain that is very different.
I don't know how don't check your Twitter today. I don't think that's going to go very well with Eagles fans, but I get Lions fans are going to love that.
They're never happy.
I'm with you. Whatever you say, I believe. The 1-2 punch is not what we want. Lions 3.5-point favorites tonight. Who wins?
Oh, they're at home. They're banged up on defense, but I'm still going to take the Lions. They're banged up on defense, but what the Packers have to be able to do is they have to be able to score with Detroit. And I think that's just been so difficult for everybody this year, Ben Johnson and Jared Goff. And that offense, you look, 2 running backs, a tight end, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, they're just –
no Jair.
Their offensive line is just scares me to death. I know Decker's been banged up, but they're big, they're physical, they have the attitude of Dan Campbell. Like Penei Sewell is just – Frank Ragnow is like the leader inside, smart. Penei is just a freak athlete that's heavy-handed and plays physical in the run game. Great face paint. I don't know. He's just fun to watch.
Okay, can we do the Josh Allen now, Richard, or should we take a break? All right, you're up. Luke, you are giving. You are generous in the holiday spirit here. You are one of the best defenders ever. Now you spend time watching a lot of tape. I need you to tell me how one would stop Josh Allen, the best player in football right now.
He's fun to watch right now. I think with Josh, you don't stop him, you just limit what he can do, his options, right? So number one, can you take away the run game with James Cook and make him just throw the ball? And then number two, how well do you rush him? Like right here, they rush 5, they don't let him escape, they put a little bit of pressure on him. And then you got to cover well in the back end, which what Houston did. His worst game of the year is against Houston. And so now they send 0. And what they're going to say is, hey, before these routes are able to open up, we're going to get pressure. He makes a really good throw, just a little bit off. And then I think the last thing is, how do your athletes on the edge match up? I think that's one that's super important for the team playing against right here. So it's Danielle Hunter. He's a freak athlete. So
he's so scary.
Do you match up athlete-wise on the edge when they go boot pass? There's probably 4 guys in the NFL that can cover Josh Allen on a boot play like that, and Danielle Hunter is one of them. But if you're designing a defense and you're trying to stop Josh Allen, how good are you on the edge, and how well can you contain Josh on the boot plays? Number one. Number two, obviously you need to stop the run game. But he's a lot like Mahomes in the sense of Josh can beat you from the pocket. He can beat you on the edge. The one thing you can't let him happen is how well do you guard him with your pass rush? Can you stay in your lanes? Can you rush with responsibility? And then, you show this play. It's like not fair.
What do you mean?
And I'm sure my guy, Sean McDermott on the sideline is the king of, oh, no. And then they score a touchdown and it's, oh, yes. So it's just funny. Like you can't, I don't know how you stop him, but I think if you can limit the run game, make him throw the ball, you can keep him in the pocket and rush with responsibility and rush with a plan, get 5 guys on him and just slowly close that pocket in on him.
I don't know.
You got a chance. But you watch him and he does that ball with Amari Cooper. You can't teach that. His run against the Chiefs at the end of the game for the touchdown. I don't know how you tackle him in open space. He's kind of like Cam, where it's like, all right, if you want to play man coverage and you want to play tight coverage on the outside and you want to rush 5,
Yeah.
and he slips out at all, everybody in the whole defense's back is towards him and he gets 20. If you want to sit in zone coverage and rush 4, he's going to be patient. He's going to find a guy in the zone coverage. And if he doesn't like it, he's going to run. I mean, and if you throw 0, you better make sure you get to him and you cover well on the back end, because he knows where he's going. And you watch all the games that he plays, he knows what he's getting. He's able to check. He's got great athletic ability. His arm gets him out of so much trouble. I mean, I think if you're trying to stop him, keep him in the pocket, limit run game, cover well on the back end, and make him throw the ball and don't let him out. So
yeah, here's some numbers. You're talking about when he gets outside. Like you just do not let this man use his legs. Like, do not let him do it. He has 6 touchdowns, just 1 interception when he gets outside the pocket. Second among quarterbacks with 6 rushing touchdowns. He's doing his thing. He's in his bag. But to your point about pressure, Josh's passer rating drops by nearly 20 points when he is pressured this season. My question to you then, as I look at the AFC, who can do it? Who's built? Which defense could stop Josh Allen best?
I think you look in that AFC and you look at some pass rushers. I think TJ Watt does a really good job, and Highsmith's really good. Hayward up the middle. You know, you look at on the outside, you know, Joey Porter Jr. And then, like I talked about earlier with Minkah Fitzpatrick, I really like him. I think he's smart. I think he's intelligent. I think he plays with great effort. And then Patrick Queen, you know, coming over from Baltimore. They've kind of have guys on all 3 levels, but that pass rush with those 3 guys, you kind of, you know, a pass rush on the edge with no interior push doesn't help you a whole lot. An interior push with no pass rushers off the edge doesn't help you that much, because I mean, if TJ Watt's killing a guy off the edge and Josh is able to just step up in that pocket and step out, it doesn't matter. But if you got a guy like Hayward on the inside that's been around for forever, that understands how pass rush works and what he needs to do to help those guys on the edge, you've got a pretty good system. And like we talked about, Mike Tomlin just knows how to win games.
I feel like we're going to put this on the internet, and Bills fans are going to say Josh Allen had 4 total touchdowns against the Steelers in a playoff game last year. I would remind everyone that this defense has really undergone a lot of changes, I think, to prepare and sort of limit a guy. And you're a Steelers fan. That's what I learned here as we flipped.
Hey, be careful. No, I'm from Cincinnati. I'm not a Steelers
You
fan.
eat your Grater's ice cream and apple pie there, Luke. Let's bring in Hamilton for some hunch time. We got big games. Big Week 14 kicks off tonight. What do you got, Ham?
All right, let's start with that game tonight. Jordan Love's line for passing yards is 247.5 up against this Lions secondary. So, Luke, we'll start with you. Does he go over or under that?
Oh, man. You know what? I think for them to win the game, I think that Josh Jacobs has to be dominant on the ground. So I think he's going to have a big game. Not that Jordan Love isn't capable of throwing it against this defense, but I think for them to win, Josh Jacobs has a big game, and he's going to be under that total.
I'm going to go under. No, I'm going to go over, because I know everyone wants to run, and we're going to give it to Josh Jacobs and all of that. But this is a no Jair game. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think Jared's going to throw a lot, and Jordan's going to have to keep up with it. I'm going to bang the over.
All right, let's dig into some of these games from Sunday. Okay, you talked about Kirk Cousins earlier. His line for passing yards is 248.5 for Sunday's game at Minnesota. So, Luke, does he bounce back and go over that, or do you think these struggles continue?
I think he's going to go to Minnesota. He's going to have a big game in that dome. I think Minnesota's going to, it'll be very similar to this Detroit game. I think Minnesota's going to score some points, and I think it's going to be put on Kirk's shoulders, and I think he's going to go out there and have a big game.
Vikings lead the league in picks.
We didn't talk about picks.
I'm just looking. I got the numbers here in front of me. They're bottom 5 in yards allowed. Season on the line. No more gratitude. I want him to be like, you like that, Kirk. Let's go over. Over.
All right, we're going over. All right, Chiefs-Chargers, Sunday Night Football. Luke, what's your hunch on who scores an anytime touchdown in that game?
Pacheco didn't score last week, and I want him to get in the end zone. I love everything about how that guy runs the football, and I love watching him play. His energy, and I'm gonna go Pacheco for the Kansas City Chiefs, getting in there in a short yardage goal line situation.
I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt at plus 210 because you picked Pacheco, so I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to say Kareem Hunt. He's been serviceable. He doesn't maybe have the burst, but he's been doing a great job while Pacheco's been on the mend. I think he gets rewarded with a little goal line action himself. There we have it.
He always falls forward and pushes through at that goal line. So I like both of those picks. I think we could even see them both score.
Luke Kuechly, the Steelers fan, everybody.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we got to be careful with that. We're going to go on the under on that one.
Who's going to challenge you? You think somebody's going to be like, give you shit for that? You're Luke freaking Kuechly. You're the best. We're going to do Kuechly Weekly Geekly at the break. So hold on. We'll be back, guys, after this with Derwin James.